Hi, Danielle. I'm so happy to hear you. And hi, Momtellectuals. So happy to have you on the Momtellectual podcast talking about success. And I'm all excited. I'm going to show people I've got my cover designed for my book that's coming out. Probably it's coming out after I air this episode, but The Paradox of Success. And so I find it really interesting. I know some of your story, and I'm happy to hear it again and share it, that sometimes the path of success is not straightforward and linear, right? Sometimes you bob and weave and feel like you might be going backwards, and that's okay. That can be part of people's journey to actually feeling successful. So this is part one. I'm going to give you a chance to tell us a little bit about who you are. There will be contact information where I post this, and then we'll have our celebration. So take it away, Danielle.
Okay. Well, hello, Tamsin. Hello, Momtellectuals. How are you? If you don't know me, I am Danielle Joworski. I am a visibility catalyst for women entrepreneurs, and I am truly passionate about helping women entrepreneurs to transition, grow, and thrive as a visible, authentic feeling CEO of a business that you love. And it's all about you stepping into who you are by discovering and exploring that person and strengthening your voice so that you can position and promote yourself as the expert that you are in the industry that you're in, so you can grow your business with more ease and flow. And just because I love being busy, I'm also a TV host. So I'm the creator, producer, and host of the C-Suite on Rogers TV, as well as the host of In Studio on Rogers TV.
Nice. And you're also an author.
Yes, I am. Yeah, in a former life. It feels like such a long time ago I did that. I am an author, yes.
And that's another fun thing. Okay, so what are you celebrating today?
So I am celebrating, and it may seem a little bit interesting that I'm celebrating in this, is that in my coaching program with women, I'm always asking them, the questions always being asked, what do you want? And getting really clear on what it is that you want. And the whole thing about clarity is once you get clarity, it's almost as if you're always peeling away the layers of the onion. What happens though with clarity is that when you start peeling away onions, the layers, and you start getting more clear on what you want, the elephant that has either been in the room the whole time, has walked in the room, and has been in a corner, but then is now inching its way closer to you, it becomes much more clear. Probably in the last month, I've gotten to the point where I had clarity on something, and that clarity really highlighted an elephant that had been sitting in the room probably since I started this second entrepreneurial journey for myself. And I finally got to the point where I said, you know what? Hello, elephant. I'm going to embrace the elephant for what it is. It's been there the whole time. What do I need to learn about this? What does it mean? And how am I going to move forward? So I'm celebrating embracing the elephant.
That's really fun.
There. And it feels good. It feels good to embrace that elephant.
Yes. Transformation can be difficult, but a lot of people say awareness is the first step, right? Being able to acknowledge. I'm going to celebrate just this Friday. You start school and it's like, yay, it's Friday. And I remember becoming a mom and I'm like, Fridays aren't better because it's even more work on the weekend. But there's still this innate thing. It's a Friday.
Yay! I feel that way about Thursdays.
Yeah. So awesome. So yes. So, okay. So we're starting part one of our conversation, and I'm really interested in your story. I've done a lot of pivoting too, but I've kind of stayed in the entrepreneurial space. But you kind of came from corporate, did the entrepreneurial thing, went back to corporate, and now you're doing the entrepreneurial thing again. And so I would love for, I think you sharing your story about that can really help other people who maybe they've tried something new and they feel stuck and it's not working, but they're afraid, they don't want to address. Maybe the elephant in the room for that is it will feel like they have to admit they failed, or that it was just the wrong choice for them. So I think that it's a really important thing to share. So I'm excited you're here.
Okay. Well, let's get going. First question then.
Well, why don't you just start talking a little bit? Because I met you when you were in your first, as an author, in your kind of first entrepreneurial journey, promoting leadership for girls is kind of what I associate you with. So what got you unhappy with where you were? Because I think I identify you as one of these people who had all the check marks of success checked off, but you didn't feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
So what was that like, and what got you to try to do something else?
Okay. So what I can share is literally, it was my 40th birthday. It's funny because the 40th birthday was the catalyst, but I knew something had been building up to my 40th birthday where I just wasn't happy. Everything was hard. The harder I worked, the harder things got. And I finally got to this point where I knew I had to make a decision and a choice to either I could keep going and see what happens, or I could make the choice to change things up. And literally on my 40th birthday, I basically said to myself, I said, this is how I feel at 40. I can't imagine feeling this way for another 40 years. I just didn't want to feel that way. I made the decision to resign. I had the privilege of being able to do that with the intention of just taking the summer off, spending it with my kids, doing a whole little eat, pray, love thing, and then finding myself within a couple of months and then returning to the corporate world. My background is manufacturing, Fortune 500, food and pharmaceutical at that point in time when I made that choice. And I was in leadership. So as you were saying, Tamsin, I had some check marks, kind of checked off a lot of the boxes that a lot of people would say, hey, you would deem as being successful. I was in management. I had a really good salary, great benefits. I had a house, a nice car, 2 kids and a dog. It was just like the perfect, like picket fence kind of thing. But I was completely unhappy.
Yeah.
And the role, not the role that I was in, but the title that I had at the time, the salary that I was making, it was something that I had actually created a goal around in my 20s when I was graduating university, when I had really no idea what the workforce was like and career succession planning, what that was like. But I graduated with an idea around by 40, I wanted to have manager title. I wanted to make so much money. And I figured, that is successful. That was in my 20s, this was my idea of success. At 38, I achieved all that. And then for the next 2 years into 40, it was just this discombobulated time where I just became more unhappy. And that's at 40. That's why I made the decision to say, this isn't working. This idea around success that I had achieved didn't exactly turn out the way I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So I needed to figure out what was actually going to work.
So now that you've gone farther in your journey, do you have any insight into why success didn't leave you feeling successful?
Because it was all external. It was external validation of what success was. So money, titles, things that people could look outside at and say, oh, well, that meets a stereotypical definition of what quote unquote success is from a cultural perspective. The shift that has happened, especially now, again, I'm much older than 40. I'm 40 now, so it's been a few years, even a few years since we've talked about this subject before. And so you always get more awareness, you always get more learning and growing. The difference for me before was that success was external validation, and it was coming, hoping it was coming from someone else. And it was all these material things. Success for me now is, and it took me again this journey to get here, it's that internal. It's that internal feeling. And it's also what I'm doing today to make an impact on others. So it's something I see and feel that I can take action on that creates that positive impact on others so that they are feeling that feeling, like they're feeling joy, or they're, oh my gosh, I'm just relaxed, or whatever that feeling is through what it is I'm trying to do. I want them to feel that. For me, that is that is that new definition of success that I'm really striving to achieve.
Cool. I find there are two things I warn people about when they're creating their personal definition of success, which I think is the important tool that I think you did to actually feel successful. Maybe I should ask, do you feel successful now?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Good.
Every day. And I can say that today now because I do feel that. There's definitely been times on this journey where again you're almost that journey, that definition of success, it evolves with
Yes.
who I am, where I am in my life, my family, what's happening around me. And so where I am now and the awareness of what it is that I want and how I want to define this term for myself, it has changed over time. There's definitely been days especially as like you said, I was in corporate, I stepped out at 40, I spent 2.5 years in the entrepreneurial world. I had success, that quote unquote textbook success, but I didn't feel successful because I also had a lot of failures. Some of those failures are the reason why I had to return to the corporate world and go back to that. No, I don't want to necessarily say go back, but it was a journey. It was that part of the journey.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel you can necessarily always go back. You're always moving forward. And we talked about this before we started taping.
Yeah.
You're always moving forward, even though it always doesn't look linear. It doesn't look sometimes as clean as you want it to be. It can be a little bit messy. It can be a little bit discombobulating,
Yes.
but I had to return. I had to return to the corporate world to get my bearings back, to understand why did I fail? What can I do to work on those things that I failed? And to get a lot more clear on exactly what it is that I wanted to do to help others, who I was, because I was trying to grow this business. At the same time, I was trying to personally grow myself and understand who I was with this whole eat, pray, love journey and grow a business at the same time. But as I was evolving as a person, like how do you translate that into a business? Because the business was constantly always changing because I was discovering new things about myself. There's a lot of failures in the first business. So when I returned to the corporate world, it became how can I learn about that? How can I shift and change that? And then how can I start redefining things in a way that is more healthy for me as well? So I got to that point where I was about 3 years. I spent about 3 years in the corporate world again when I stepped out. And when I stepped out that second time, it was really getting a clear understanding as to what the failures were the first time, finding different ways to overcome the failures, and also to really get very clear on what it is that I want to feel. Yes, you need to pay your bills, you need to have certain monetary gains in a business or certain those more external measurements of success, just because you want to make sure that you're actually making money in a business and you're growing yourself. But I saw more money as impact. I was shifting how I was seeing impact. So if I want to create impact, but I also needed to make money in the business so I could continue to create impact, I had to shift how I was looking at the definition of success, the definition of what I was wanting to do, and really focusing on doing things and creating what is it that emotion? How do I want to feel when I feel like I'm being honest with myself, I'm being authentic to myself, and I'm aligned with, you could call it a purpose or at least this vision and this idea of actually being able to help others.
Mm-hmm. You're checking off a lot of the boxes of what I talk about. That's and I mean, I think the wisdom that I feel I'm sharing in the book, some of it's from me and my own experience, and I share my own stories, but we've had a lot of conversations about this. And I've had a lot of conversations, like whether it's podcast interviews with other women who've shifted their life because they had checked off the boxes and they also weren't happy. And also a lot of, I'm a community builder. I have Facebook groups, and there's a lot of conversations that go on about feeling like a failure as a parent as well. And there's a lot of different things that come up. And you've kind of touched on something, but I would like to directly address this feeling. I remember this feeling of I'll be happy when. And I put everything, all my check boxes were, education, great job, married, kids. So the last check box I checked off was having my son. And I turned 40 3 months after having him. So I was tired and there was a lot. I was also grieving because I had to go through fertility treatments and I had multiple miscarriages before having him. So, and I just pushed all that aside and it came back. But I remember telling myself, I should be happy and grateful and feel nothing else. And I think people might consciously do this, but I also think it's an underlying thing that people just assume and they don't question, but they get there like I did, and they still have all their feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And so that knocks some people, including me, sideways, right? Like, this is supposed to be happily ever after now. And the fact you still have bad days, not only you still have bad days, so some days I feel less successful than others. I feel that I am experiencing more success than ever before. And it's awesome, but I still have bad days. And I still have all my feelings. So was there any of that when kind of when you were 38 and you checked off all your boxes? Did you kind of have that expectation that, well, I just get to be happy now? Or did that play any role for you at all, or not? I'm curious.
Honestly, when you say about being happy, I never focused on being happy. It was just like, again, it was just the doing. So, and that question, when we do it as, I think as parents, so often you ask kids, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Okay.
I've shifted that question around to, who do you want to be? And not only that, for myself, how do I want to feel when I grow up, when I'm doing whatever it is that I want to do? Back at 38, and especially you get 38, even 40, even the first few years I was an entrepreneur and just on this journey of discovering, exploring who I am and being open to that. It was never this focus on that emotion. It was on the things, the tangible outcomes that others could see. So it was not on the emotion. Now I'm very focused on, how do I want to feel? And I'm big on goal setting. I write my goal out at least once a day. And I anchor my goal with emotion at the beginning. So I'm so happy and grateful now that, and then I write the goal. And then at the very end, I anchor with the emotion. I feel alive. And I always write, it's interesting. Alive is always written in full caps. It's underlined and there's an exclamation mark. So for me, everything that I want to do and everything I'm saying yes to makes me feel alive. So it's all about this feeling. So I know when I'm feeling alive, for me, that means I'm aligned with whatever this bigger purpose is, whatever the bigger goal is for my business, for myself personally. And for me, when I feel alive, it means I'm giving who I am and that best part of myself in that moment. And that allows me as well to basically say, when someone posts an opportunity and says, well, hey, what do you think about this? Do you want to do this? If I don't get that alive feeling, or at least a curiosity about, oh, how might this work? I say no. And then I'm able to say no without feeling guilty, because for me, it doesn't create that sense of feeling alive. And that feeling is truly important for me. And I use that just as much as that guiding point as I do for my goal.
Cool. Awesome. Yes. I think of it a little differently, but I think the point is very important. Like, one of the things I talk about, the myth of happiness in the book, and I did have happiness as a goal, or not even so much as a goal, but as an expectation that it would happen. And now I question having happiness as a goal. I say some of the well-being and feeling whole, which for me, saying I feel really alive, that kind of touches the same thing. And it's embracing all my emotions is really important for me, and one of the main things I had to learn. But I find it really interesting that you didn't really have emotion as any part of your kind of picture of success originally. I find that interesting.
No, none. It's just truck ahead. And I find it's funny we talk about emotion, because years ago, my license plate used to say ice. I had a personalized license plate and it had ice in it. Because I was, and I will absolutely admit to this and own up to it, I was a pretty cold person. I was not super friendly. I'm very shy by nature. I'm an introvert by nature. I much prefer to be by myself than in a big group of people. And so I knew I came off as very icy and very cold to a lot of people, hence why I actually put it in my license plate. But at the same time, I just wasn't comfortable with emotion. And I feel for me, as I went through my career, especially towards those last few years before 40, I almost feel like I was more numb than anything else. I knew I was living this life every single day, going to work, kind of being on that hamster wheel. But remember saying to my husband multiple times, I feel like I know it's my life because I'm physically here. I could pinch myself. I'm going through the motions, but I feel like it's somebody else's life.
Yeah.
This isn't my life. I'm just somehow like this actress in this movie playing this role, but I'm in the wrong role. Now, when I look back, and again, hindsight is 2020 and awareness is a gift, I realize that I was no longer on a path of alignment. And I look back, I think, okay, there were signs leading up to 40 for many years that it was time for me to get off my path and try and find something different. That again, talk about elephants. I was just ignoring. And finally on my 40th birthday, that elephant was like right in front of my face. And I just, okay. I just didn't know how to deal with elephants at that time. Again, many years later, I can deal with elephants in a very different way. But I didn't know. So yeah, there was no emotion. I was not a very warm and friendly person. It wasn't me. It wasn't in my nature. So to feel happy, I don't know. I didn't know. I probably had this idea of what happy was, but it's more kind of neutral and maybe flatlined. And you get these little bursts of, oh, hey, this is great. But you come down very, very fast. And then this was the norm for happy. I don't think I could truly experience happiness because honestly, when I look back at it, I wasn't happy.
Yeah. Did you feel you should be, or it wasn't part of your picture?
It wasn't part of the picture. It was never that big or goal, never part of the picture because you always focus on the what are you going to do? And I had never really grown up or really focused on the emotion. So feeling a certain way in your career, it just wasn't, you just did it. And especially when you go along your career, like how many people are in their career, they just don't like it, but they still do it.
Yeah.
So and if you can't find that source of happiness outside of work, then everything to me, it was just melding all in together. Like it just became it was just this blanket life where everything just was not feeling good. And I was unhappy, but at the same time, I didn't know what happiness felt like. I didn't know what it looked like. And so
find that very interesting. I'm gonna have to think back after this. I'm not gonna take time to do it now, but after I'm gonna ask myself those questions. But it's memory, right? Like I've come so far. It's hard to sometimes remember how you felt if you don't do a lot of processing around it. So I think for me, happiness was an expectation. It wasn't something. Fun is one of my core values. Like I bring the fun and I have fun, but I think that was also partly why I was when depression hit, it was like, this is not me. This is not okay. Something is terribly wrong. So yeah. All right. Well, thank you. I am going to pause. We're going to do a part 2. So you and I will continue. For Momtellectuals, you're going to have to wait a week if you're seeing this right when it airs. So I would love to start our next conversation talking about connection with purpose, because you've said some things that really are now pulling on all the stuff that I've talked about with that. So we will talk about connecting with purpose in part 2.
Okay.
All
Looking forward to it.
Thanks. Okay.